From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonder's Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone. I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by James St. James, the world's first celebutant, best-selling author, and host of WoW podcast, Night Fever. And, of course, our Chief Creative Officer, Tom Campbell.
I want to be referred to as the last celebutant.
Well, you are here, it says here. You are the yin to James's yang. So,
It's true. He's happy, I'm cranky, and it all works out beautifully in the end.
now, this week, instead of marveling at the awe-inspiring moments that define success and innovation, blah, 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 we are diving deep into the fascinating, cringe-inducing world of business blunders, flops, spectacular fails, and we're going to celebrate them. We did part one, and it was so successful, and there are so many examples that we are now doing part two, which is a deep dive into the fascinating, cringe-inducing world of business blunders, spectacular fails, biggest flops. It's an all-shade edition. Let's start the countdown. Number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
In the year 2000, on Good Morning America, my friend Antonio Mora was the newsreader for many years, and he told me about this invention, and they hyped it on the show. You know, on Friday in Good Morning America, it's going to be the machine
exactly what you're talking about. Yes,
that changes the world. That the most important invention since the wheel, kind of thing. And they finally introduced it. And while they really tried, they had remotes, and it was Diane Sawyer.
I remember waking up for this, thinking that it was teleportation, it was flying cars, it was going to change the world.
It was the Segway.
Dun, 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 the Segway.
Now you remember what a Segway was, and they were around for a while. So this is a product failure that. It was around for like 20 years, but because it was supposed to change the world and it's no longer made, kind of is my long tail product that did not work. But
it's like Paul Blart. It's associated with mall cops now.
That's exactly right.
Well, but I do want to say, though, it is a bad business model as it was and a failure as it was. For a while there, it was huge in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you remember this. You were going to talk about that. Okay, please. I'm sorry.
Before you counter my premise, allow me to make the premise.
Yeah, please, yes.
So it was billed as the world's first self-balancing human transportation. And they likened it to magic sneakers. That it kind of just, so you get on it and it would just sort of know, and by your not even leaning, but just by subtle moves, you could go anywhere. And it was, Dean Kamen was the inventor. He had invented a lot of things, but in its incredible lifespan where there were mall cops and it caught on, only 140,000 units were sold in like the 25 years. And the learning curve and balancing on the Segway was maybe a little harder than they thought, because there's some very high-profile public accidents that included George W. Bush, Ellen DeGeneres, and supposedly, the urban legend is that the inventor of the Segway died in a Segway accident.
Didn't he go off the cliff or something?
Over stairs or something and killed himself.
It's
it
not
turns
true.
out that the inventor, Dean Kamen, did not die on the Segway, but the person who bought the company, some guy named Jimmy Heselden, did kill himself in the Segway. So it never really, he fell off a cliff while riding his Segway PT by his home. His body was found in a ravine. He was using an all-terrain model. Several theories explaining his fall were proposed, but the reliability of the vehicle has never been questioned. Oh, okay. It was bought by
his own life. Do you think maybe he sort of realized that
it took it it went with his death? But in 2015, a Beijing company bought up Segway. In 2020, they announced they'd be no longer make the Segway. And while they remain popular for security and tourism, electric scooters, have you seen those? Have you heard of those? Kind of took over where Segways were supposed to revolutionize the world. So
and
my
what was the one that was the wheel that you balanced on both sides? What was that one? There was a
Hoverboard.
the hoverboards, right? Yes, the hoverboard had a moment in 2012 or something like that.
So, this is I learned this from Pat Philly, my boss at ABC Daytime. She goes, nothing is worse for a bad show than a good promo campaign. So you get everybody like wanting to see it, and then the show sucks. So the Segway kind of had big trumpets up front and never kind of reached the promise that it was.
It did have a genuine moment of brilliance in Mole Cop, right? Kevin James played
Paul Blart, yes.
Yes. Like it just was sort of iconic moment of him as the Mole Cop on his.
I just had a flash. You know, at Bob's Big Boy in Burbank, they have car shows and they'll like have.
Yeah.
There's going to be a Segway club. We need to start the Segway club where we all meet like at diners and just sort of well, hello, James, I'm here in the Segway.
Sounds like if there was only a few made and they quit making them, they're going to be really expensive one day.
We can meet at malls. We
They're
can
like
meet
the DeLoreans of the 2000s.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm onto something.
Did Good Morning America take any hits for that? Were they sort of made fun of at the time because they were the ones promoting this huge, life-changing thing that was sort of like, wah, wah, wah.
There was no social media, so we'll never know.
Oh, right. Sure. Okay.
Never.
We're counting down the top 10 biggest failures that made us go wow. And number 9, James.
Number 9.
Well, I'm going to go off on one of my periodic David Zaslav rants here because I want to talk about the rebranding and the rebranding again of HBO Max and how it turned into Max, because I want you to take the Wayback Machine. I want you to get in your time machine and go back to the 1970s when HBO first came out. And if you were one of the families in your neighborhood that had HBO, you were one of the coolest people on the block. It was a box that went the channel flipped from regular TV, from network TV to HBO, and they had all the movies. I mean, it was usually like 3 years after the movie came out, but they had the movies, and it was the big thing. And then in the 1990s, they started doing original programming, and the first one was like the Larry Sanders Show.
It was Dream On, Tales from the Crypt, Larry Sanders.
Exactly. And then by the late 90s, of course, The Sopranos and Sex and the City and Curb Your Enthusiasm started, and it sort of propelled it back into, I mean, just it was must see. It was all fabulous.
It's not television, it's HBO.
It's HBO. Well, then along comes Zaslav, who has that Elon Muskian. You go in, you destroy everything, you tear it all down, and then you try and build it back up. And he did that with Discovery. He did that with DC, with the DC universe, and he did that with Warner Brothers. And he comes in. I want you to tell you that he makes $51 million a year to destroy whatever he touches, and he gets a $23 million bonus every single year. And what he does is he turns everything he touches to shit. And by God, that's what he did to HBO. First, it was HBO Max, and then he changed it to Max. And Max is one of the worst rebrandings. It's up there with Sci-Fi. It's up there with every bad one you can ever think of. I know Fenton has a long list of these that are just ridiculous. Max was like Cinemax. It was like Skinamax. It was like porn. It sounded like an energy drink, something. And then come to find out that was a total bomb, and that was announced that it's back to HBO Max, and then they're going back to HBO. So what was the damn purpose of any of it? I ask you.
I would like to create our own meme here. If you remember the movie Chinatown, where Jack Nicholson finds out that Faye Dunaway is a product of incest,
Yeah.
she's the girl's
my sister, my mother.
It's HBO Max, HBO Max, HBO Max, Max, HBO. Okay,
But and you're right, but it's also thousands of people lost their job.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. It's like that Musk thing where he comes in with Doge and destroys. It's what he did with X. He comes in and destroys it, and then says, "Oh, now let's build it back."
And I would have thought that to unspin companies that you span together, you must be held accountable. I just don't understand how
And
the
how
very
he still
person
keeps
who
getting
was
$51 million and $23 million
Right.
bonuses to do this to things is just crazy.
I'm not afraid. I'm not a friend of the billionaires. I'm not a friend of these incredible gaps between pay. But I will say that David Zaslav, and you're going to jump on me, but we live in a time where media is changing faster than we could have ever imagined, and that cable means nothing, that MTV as a brand means nothing. I don't think that's a different company, but I don't know that that's necessarily the fault of the people in charge. I think that's coming, and they're trying to figure out what the hell to do to
if you recall what Zaslav did, and some of the things that bother me more than anything, would you have this fantastic movie, Coyote versus Acme, which is supposedly one of the best animated movies of all time, and it's finished, it's done, and it's supposed to be everyone who sees it says it's absolutely Oscar-worthy genius. It's the return of Warner Brothers Animation, and what does he do? He shelves it for his tax write-off. He makes sure that it's never going to see the light of day because it's a better tax write-off than whatever it potentially makes. He did the same thing with the Batgirl movie. The Batgirl movie was going to be a hit for DC. It was a movie that was already made. It was already in the can, and he decides to make it a tax write-off instead. So where is the artistry? Where is the art? And why is the bottom line?
Tragically, it's always been this way, but more than ever in the last few years, with all this fear and confusion and money and all that, it is called show business, not show family. I'm sorry.
But you as a content creator, doesn't it upset you that things
100%. I live in creativity. I live in sentimentality. I live in memory and honor of all of these things. But that's not where we're going. And so you need to, and it's always figuring out a way. Creators have always tried to figure out a way.
But the businessman is going to say, well, let's just make AI content because it's cheap, and who cares about what the creativity and the beauty of it.
And they will, but it's not good enough yet. And we'll go off another time about AI and learn how to use AI and not. I'm hoping. I'm trying to be optimistic. I hear.
But I'm going to say, in addition to the lives ruined by all the jobs lost, there was a real cost, not just billions of dollars, real human cost. I also think the creativity of you make a movie, it takes a fuck of a lot of hard work to make a movie or do anything, and for it to never be seen. It's it is cruel and it is callous. And I really do think, Tom, I get that they're trying to adapt to the changing times, but let's call stupidity, because really one example,
not reward it with the $23 million bonus every year.
One example was that they were going to launch a CNN streaming network, and I think they spent $43 million teeing that up, only to abandon it at the cost of $43 million, only to a few years later. Now they're going to do a streaming network. Anyone who made such a bad decision in another job would be fired. These are
people who are failing upwards, is what it is.
It's confounding. But these are the outlets that we pitch to. These are the outlets that we have to sell to. This is the outlets that we have to figure out how to adapt, or I guess, or forge a new path, which I think we are. World of Wonder is trying to do.
There used to be something called the Peter Principle, in which you failed. You rose to the level of your incompetence, and then no more. And that in the age of Trump, the Peter Principle just no longer applies. And it seems to be the opposite, that you were failing way past the level of your incompetence.
Okay. Cut to Janet Jackson. Pleasure Principle, please. Thank you.
Moving on. Number 8.
Number 8.
It's the Cybertruck. Spectacular fail, the Cybertruck. Unveiled for the first time in 2019. Remember, they were boasting that they had unbreakable armor glass windows. And at the live demo, threw a metal ball at the window and it just broke. And I think in a way that was like set in stone, as it were, the future of the Cybertruck. I mean, it was extremely ugly, a sort of brutalist design. And I suppose we were at a point then before Musk, this is 2019, before the pandemic. So it's a point where before Musk had gone totally MAGA. But I thought, is the Cybertruck cool looking? I sort of thought it was, potentially.
It was a risk.
It has now become the symbol of like this wedge of ugly cheese. I'm surprised they don't actually sell them to ICE. Maybe they have. That's what they should do with all the unsold Cybertrucks.
Anecdotally speaking, though,
Yeah.
I do see around Hollywood, I see more and more Cybertrucks, which I think has become a symbol of like, fuck you, libtards. I'm going to buy a Cybertruck in order to support MAGA.
They are promised long ahead of time before they actually arrive. And when they do arrive, they don't actually work the way they're supposed to. So, he's been promising full self-driving for many years. It still isn't here. I actually, when I had a Tesla, I bought the self-driving package. It didn't work. I didn't want to say anything. It was embarrassing. I thought maybe I'm the problem, that I can't get full self-drive in my car.
I remember that drive to E Entertainment was on Wilshire, and we were all in your car on Highland, and the self-drive was not doing its thing. It was not doing its thing. It was a very scary.
I almost killed you all. Yes. And in fact, Steve Wozniak, founder of Apple, said that it is a lethal killing machine. The full self-drive thing.
It's a damn toaster is what it is. It's just so damn ugly.
I think they spent something like $2 billion, maybe 3-4, developing the Cybertruck. Oh, the other thing I loved about it is the fact that the brushed stainless steel, anyone who remembers the DeLorean, stainless steel is not actually stainless steel. And it just looks really tawdry, really ugly, really quickly. So talk about not learning from the past.
And there was some image that went viral that like panels kept falling off.
Yes.
And it looked like a bad HGTV show where like bad contractors came into your house and like glue gunned and put styrofoam into your, and it was just like, oh my God. Because conceptually, I like that they took a risk. I don't like the way it looks, and it hasn't grown on me. But you're like, oh, they're doing something really cool. But also, it looks like it hurts, and it does look like a dumpster. I'm sorry, people have proven it time and time again.
I really enjoyed it when these panels were flying off because they called it a rapid disassembly event, which was so cool.
I want one of those.
It chimed with one of Musk's rockets blowing up in a similar demise. Disassembly event. And they used the wrong adhesive. And then you're thinking, wait, hang on a second. You are building a tank and you are just gluing it together? It's like...
Legos have more oomph to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
So I suppose the good news is if you want one, I think there's something like 10,000 sitting unsold in a parking lot that can be viewed from space. And I can't imagine it's going to be around for very much longer.
If you have one, you're not invited to our Segway mall.
All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll carry on counting down the top 10 mega flops of all time here on Radio Andy on the Wow Report.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. We are counting down the top 10 fails of all time. Pretty simple, straightforward. Number
7.
Number 7.
Everyone's always like Barbie, Barbie this, Barbie that, Barbie, Barbie, Barbie. I want to talk about her kid sister, Skipper. You know who I'm talking about? Mattel's Skipper. Now, and I'm talking specifically, I'm going to give me a moment to do my background, but there was in 1975 a launch of a doll that lasted only 2 years, and it was called Growing Up Skipper, a doll that would grow from young girl to teenager in seconds just by swinging her arm. She would grow.
She'd get breasts.
And she had a rubber torso, and it would elongate as you cranked her arm all the way around, and little budding breasts would come out.
I vaguely remember this. What year was this?
1975, 2 years.
Wow.
And it was supposed to, and I was not scandalized as a child. We made fun of it, but I wasn't scandalized. But anyway, first of all, Skipper came about in the sort of mid 60s out of reaction to the people that thought that Barbie was too sexualized, too curvy, too little sex kitten. So they wanted to give her a family. They thought, a daughter would be too much because, pregnant Barbie, you don't want to think about it. So they came up with her little sister, Skipper, who was always kind of prepubescent and long, just a little more approachable. But this whole idea of a growing up Skipper didn't happen in 75, but there was a precedent. There was a Francine Grows, a prototype. They had a lot of sort of like Barbie's world friends that have never made it through history, but Francine prototype, you'd squeeze her and she grows, but no boobies. And the mechanism didn't really work. So they scrapped in 1967, Francine Grows.
What about Midge?
There's Midge. There's others. I can't. I don't know enough.
Midge and Alan were a big deal. But
yeah.
Okay.
But I vaguely remember these dolls that grew boobs, and it was
they were on television. You saw it happen.
You turned on by it. Yes.
And on the ball was like 2 dolls in one for twice as much fun. Maturing teen body. It originally cost $4.99, and it's for girls over 3. I guess if you're under 3, it's too much. And
can you imagine in this day and time having something like that? The Republicans would lose their damn mind.
I know. And it was again packaging stuff. See her grow slim and tall and curvy. And turn her arm the other way around, and she's cute and young again. And the other great thing about this was you got double fashion packs. They'd be like matching, like mother-daughter outfits almost. Or you get 2 outfits, but one would be kind of cutesy for a young Skipper, and one would be a little more vivacious for a grown-up Skipper. It's this very 70s, but little Skipper had a mini skirt that was kind of plaid, and a grown-up Skipper had a maxi skirt. So it wasn't like more flesh; it was just more fashionable. Now, presumably this happened. Ruth Handler, who invented Barbie, was there for a long time. She left in 75, and at that time, for the first time ever, Mattel was run only by men. And supposedly, the head of
ding, doesn't it make sense now? Yes.
And the head of Mattel at the time was sort of fascinated with his own daughter's.
Ew.
I kind of suggested it. And the flaw with the design was a grown-up Skipper was kind of stretched out of proportion because her torso got really long, and she of course had the boobettes, but her legs and arms stayed the same. So she looked a little challenged. The fashions, I have to tell you, the fashion packs where they had 2 are fabulous. I mean, it was the mid 70s, and they've always done a nice job with Barbie's thing.
Well, I wonder if you could go on eBay how much these would sell for now.
Oh, they're more than $4.99, which they went to originally. Now, they go for a lot. And
I imagine,
you can find them. By the way, in 78, after the doll was discontinued, they put out a book about growing up Skipper that I guess was supposedly, if people have read it, it's very sensitive and about emotions and growing up, which they thought would have been great if they had released that with the doll instead of having all the kind of puberty jokes. So in between then and like 2009, Skipper, depending on which Skipper they were into, would either be kind of like post-pubescent and kind of sexualized, or little girl. And then in 2009, Mattel laid down the line, and Skipper is now and will forever be 14 years old. But today we remember the Blake saying $300 to $700 if you want to get your own
I know what I want for Christmas.
All right, twist that arm all the way around.
James, I bet you want the pregnant Midge doll from 2002.
I did have a soft spot for Midge, yeah.
And her unwanted baby.
Number 6, James.
Number 6.
Yeah, I want to sort of break away from the product things we've been talking about, and I want to list a few failed series reboots that you might not remember that were fails. Okay. Do you remember that there was a 2011 Charlie's Angels on ABC starring Rachel Taylor and Minka Kelly?
I remember that.
Lasted 4 episodes, and it was out. It was gone. It was just terrible.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, Bel Air premiered, and it was a somber retelling of the Fresh Prince of Bel Air that was so dreary that it lasted a couple episodes. Nobody wanted it.
It's on the 4th season.
Is it? Well, it's a failure. It's a terrible failure critically, and the audiences hate it. Anyway, there was a 2022 Queer as Folk reboot that didn't offer anything new. And the fact that Queer as Folk was so one of the first of the really great, queer storytelling. But now there's so much queer storytelling that it doesn't quite.
I did watch it. I remember that. It had
let me guess, you love it, and everybody loves it. And it's on the 4th season. Anyway.
Maybe I only saw like 4 episodes of it.
Fail.
Do you remember that Matthew Perry starred in an Odd Couple reboot a few years ago that was just rotten? There was a Dallas reboot in 2012 that went nowhere. There was Love Boat: The Next Wave in 1998 that lasted a couple episodes.
Now that should have worked.
That should have worked. Yeah. There was a 2007 Bionic Woman reboot. I don't know if you remember that. That was
that one slipped by me.
Yeah, and of course the 80s show, which just never lived up to its 70s predecessor. I'm also still very sad that the Muppets failed in their 2011 series. So just a couple series right there that just did not work.
I got one to add. The Monkeys. Do you remember the Monkeys? They rebooted the Monkeys, the TV show in
the 80s or 90s.
No, I think it was in the 80s, like 82, 84, 85. Yeah, I thought it was quite good.
Well, they had some bangers and they were hysterical. So, and people, discount them, but they were the 60s, boy. He's up there with the Beatles. So I think
they called it the New Monkeys. So I don't know if that means it doesn't count as a reboot.
Oh, did it have new people playing new monkeys?
Yes, of course. Yes. I mean,
there was also a reboot of Saved by the Bell. There was the new class.
And then there was the college years.
And I liked both of those, but I was also like 10. So
yeah, that was you were the target demographic. Yeah,
exactly.
Number 5. Tom, we can share this one because we both have memories. But I remember I think it was like June of 2019, went to the Banff Television Festival in Banff in Canada, and the guest of honor was Jeffrey Katzenberg, and everybody was just quivering with excitement and anticipation. He arrived by helicopter. I mean, just fantastically grand, and you were like, oh my gosh, we're all going to go and hear Jeffrey Katzenberg speak. And of course he was speaking about the yet to be launched Quibi, and Quibi is a name that came from Quick Bites. You take Quick Bites and you get Quibi, and the whole idea was you would watch short form content on your phone.
A brilliant idea. It should have worked.
Right? And then they had this other unique thing, which was that you could, everyone was always like, well, you should be, everything's landscape format. And they came up with some piece of software that could just turn your picture into a vertical format. And so you could watch it vertically. I mean,
but the thing about it, Tom, that works is that if you're on a bus, if you're in an Uber ride, if you're on a subway, it's a 10-minute thing. You can. It's perfect timing for that kind for people on the go.
Couple things went wrong with that, though, right?
Sure did. Well, Jeffrey Katzenberg blames coronavirus because they launched. I had forgotten this. They launched in April of 2020, and I guess. Everybody shut down. Everything shut down. No one was going anywhere. So the idea of being on the go, watching,
you're in line at Starbucks, rushing to get to work by 9:30, or they close the doors, and then the pandemic happens, and post-pandemic, and nobody starts work at 9:30.
Everyone suddenly wants long form again. Everyone's binging everything. So yeah,
the economic model was off because they were. The idea was it was A-list celebrities. Yes. It was the movie mentality because Katzenberg, who's an amazing executive and formed DreamWorks and was a huge part of the Disney Renaissance, but it was the idea of spending millions and millions of dollars on George Clooney, do us a Quibi series, doesn't matter what it is, Julia Roberts, all these people, you had to be so like A-list to get on this thing. And then it's like, what makes a show that you would like a series? They didn't know like what is a 7-minute show. Like, what's a 7-minute game show? What's a 7-minute drama? Should they be interactive? The executives were truly clueless. They were trying to do something new, but they didn't really have. And just as they were spending all this money to make content that didn't really have a reason to be shorter, out comes Reels at the time, which has become, stories, and it's become TikTok and all this free, low budget, free self-shot content that entertains us now that we watch endlessly versus George Clooney in a 8-part series for Quibi that cost millions.
I think that was I don't think it was coronavirus. I think you're right, Tom. I think that was the biggest miscalculation, and not to fault him, but it was just no one saw coming the creator economy, that people would just be making things themselves and making things to such a high value and so well made that actually the difference between an amateur cat video and a premium piece of television is suddenly not so great. And that, of course, that has been the secret of Google's success, because you've suddenly seen these viral homemade videos really elevating in terms of production value, and people are just doing it themselves on their phone. They're editing the special effects. It's extraordinary.
But I do remember the executives, very well intended, being totally kind of baffled to how to guide you toward them, because there were no rules and it didn't quite make sense. And because it was Jeffrey Katzenberg and he had such an unblemished record up until Quibi, people were just like, he must know what he's talking about. And was it, I'm bad with numbers, was it a $20 billion?
No, it was 1.7 billion, but still quite a significant amount.
2 billion. Let's round it up.
I do need to burst in here and say that
Yes.
I had a deal with Quibi. Trudy Styler and I took multiple.
That's why it failed.
But you talk about how we had a wonderful idea, and it wasn't A-list stars. I'm as Z-list as they come.
Pitch it now.
Yeah, why don't you play it for us? I'd like to see it.
I will call Trudy and have her bring it up. It's Freak Show. It was my movie done in 8-minute, segments of this, drag queen at school. And it was a brilliant idea, and it worked perfectly. And we had all the scripts ready to go, and we were ready to sign on the dotted line. And then April of 2020 comes along, just as we're about to sign.
Ta-da-da.
And here I am at World of Wonder.
Here you are. Oh my God.
Of a radio show when I could have been a Quibi star.
Don't you remember, Tom? We would go to the Quibi HQ for pitch meetings, and Randy, who is prescient in so many ways, and we were all just overwhelmed by the free food, but Randy was like, there's a problem here. Like, that amount of free food, that amount of sort of blinginess, Randy felt was like sure sign that it was going to hit.
You just get a vibe when you go places and no one's really working. It feels like the computers are like the computers at IKEA that are just boxes, like they're not really plugged into anything. And people are just walking around, and there's, big objet d'art on shelves and hallways.
Everybody there was very chic. Everybody that we
very
met
beautiful.
It was all beautiful people.
Yeah, we had several meetings. We had a couple of show ideas that were clearly not going to go anywhere. There was also there was one day we were there, and I think Jeffrey Katzenberg was walking around, wasn't he, on the floor? It was like, it's like,
I think he was picking up all those objects of art and trying to return them. Bring them back to Bed Bath & Beyond where they came from.
Is Quibi. Yes, December 2020 was a quick 6 months.
TikTok killed the Quibi star.
There you go.
Yeah. But of course, now the paradox, the irony is, of whatever, is like short form entertainment is bigger than ever. And vertical microdramas is like,
But they both exist. That's people want what's entertaining. If it makes sense for small bites, great. If it makes sense for long form, there's an audience for that too.
I did learn something the other day where someone said, you've got to go to where the audience is. You can't expect the audience to come to you. All right. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a break. And when we come back, more dazzling failures from culture and cinema.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. We have been counting down the top 10 failures, flops. Well, not of all time, but the ones that we love. Tonight, what number have we reached? 4.
That's me.
Number 4.
All right.
I'm going to give you a twofer this time. 2 food adjacent product flops that I want to talk about. But first of all, I wanted to say that I've always wanted to invent chocolate flavored deodorant in which you spray it on and it smells like chocolate, and when you lick someone's armpit it tastes like chocolate. I think it's $1 million idea. If anyone wants to run with it, please do contact me. And that leads me into my 2 products, because the first one is in 2005, Frito put out a Cheeto flavored lip balm that failed to capture the consumer's fancy. Apparently, people prefer vanilla, mint, cherry, orange flavored lip balms, and Flaming Hot Cheetos is not something that they wanted on their lips for a very long period of time. So they immediately removed it from the market. Then number 2, Clairol in 1979 had a similar problem with their Touch of Yogurt shampoo, which was a milky white, and everybody was drinking it and getting sick. And so they had to quickly take it off the market because people were ending up in the hospital.
So stupid people were drinking yogurt shampoo.
It was yogurt smelling shampoo. They thought it was yogurt flavored. And then Clairol
It's in the shower, people. It's in the shower.
So boomers ate soap, but they all blame Gen Z for eating Tide Pods.
There you go.
Anyway, Clairol did not learn their lesson, because the next year they came out with Look of Buttermilk shampoo and had the same problem all over again as people were drinking their shampoo. So Clairol, get it together. And if anyone wants to help with my chocolate flavored,
I just have to interject, James. I'm sorry, but it's already on the market. Axe Dark Temptation men's deodorant body spray, dark chocolate scent. Yeah,
I am suing Axe because I've had this idea I think they stole it from me.
$7.99 at Ralph's. So what can I tell you?
Oh, you destroyed my day. I can't believe it.
I'm going to throw in, just to bring us down a few notches, taste wise. I never liked fruit flavored condoms.
Wow.
Remember those when there was like safe sex? They're fruit flavored. It's like,
Well, I don't even like colored condoms. I don't like orange condoms or pink condoms. No.
I don't like edible underwear.
Well, I do like edible underwear. I have been known to have a little stash in my house that I just chew on while I'm watching General Hospital.
You definitely don't want a thong, an edible thong. You definitely don't want an edible thong.
Oh gosh, there's no segue really. Oh, number 3. Tell them.
Number 3.
I want to talk about one of the flops of all time in the automotive industry was the Pontiac Aztec, Aztek. That should have been a hint right there. It was a mid-sized crossover SUV marketed by General Motors. Rest in peace, Pontiac. We don't have it anymore. But it was marketed for extreme futuristic styling to Generation X buyer. It went on sale the summer of 2000 with the 2001 model, and it was sort of debuted during the premiere of the new CBS hit reality show Survivor, which is
this is sort of like a Cybertruck for the early 2000s.
There you go. And it's there had been sort of SUVs before, but like SUVs were just starting to really take over, and so much of the European. So here they try to do something. It's designed by a guy named Tom Peters, who worked at GM, who's done like the redesign of the Corvette. He's had some successes, but this was just they made it like it looked like a car had been thrown off a building and landed on top of another car. There were like 2 sets of disparate headlights. Some of them they finally made them one color at one point, but they were 2 colors. So it'd be like black with like color on the top. Sometimes new models come out and it takes a year or 2 for you to the designers are ahead of us. They know what they're doing. Yeah. Not the case with the Aztec. Let me just give my example, then you guys can agree or disagree. But it was noted for its controversial styling. Okay. And supposedly this guy, automotive journalist Dan Neal said that the Aztec violated one of the principal rules of car design. We like cars that look like us. But the Aztec, with its multiple eyes and supernumerary nostrils, the Aztec looks deformed and scary, something the dogs bark at and cathedrals employ to ring bells. The shame is under all the ugliness is there was a useful, competent crossover. So what did you guys think?
Well, I am looking at an article right now on Reddit saying, is Cybertruck really just a rebranded Aztec?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, these were really, what I remember about these is they were built to you could buy a tent attachment and car camp in them. They were built, and they had coolers in the console so you could keep your food cool. It was meant to be an outdoorsy Like
Absolutely. Extreme sport, extreme living, and,
Right.
and very sexy. And I mean, a lot of good ideas destroyed by the look. And I love this. Is the first time I ever read that, because I used to always think of the headlights as the eyes and the taillights of cars as the mouth. And the grill is kind of the nose. So it's like, I'm glad that I'm not alone.
Paradellis or something where you see faces and everything.
That's me.
Pareidolia or something like that.
Yeah.
I know Kenny Scharf has it. It's a condition.
I almost want. After this, I'm going to go look and see how much a 2001 Pontiac Aztec costs.
You're going to go buy one?
Well, I'll tell you,
so ugly. It might be so ugly it's worth doing.
A 2005 with 125,000 miles on it is $3,800. A 2003 with 92,000 miles on it for $4,200.
It might be just the thing for New Hampshire. Fenton, do you have any thoughts? Because
I don't. I mean, I do love cars that fail, though. My dad had in the 70s, and I think there were more cars that failed in the 70s, like the Pacer, right?
But I think the Pacer's beautiful and practical, but it's beautiful. This is not beautiful.
And my dad bought this thing called the RO80, which had a Wankel engine, and it was just really exciting. It was a German car, and it looked very modern, current, streamlined vibes, but it had a rotary. The engine was, instead of pistons going up and down, it was a triangle inside a circle, and as the triangle went round, those were the cylinders.
And that made it a Wankel engine?
A Wankel engine.
Oh,
and
that
it was just
dirty sounding.
Not only that, James, the car was made in Germany. And so on the ignition, there was a button, and it was like fart start.
You love that. That is right up. That explains so much, Fenton, about you.
Yes. We were so happy.
To hear more about that, go back to our first failed product.
Oh, yeah.
Fenton talked about it.
Yeah, recycling ideas, because
You've got a brand. You've got a brand. You've got a brand, Fenton. You have to live up to it. People expect
I thought it was so long ago, no one would remember. All right, we are counting down the top 10 failures of all time. Well, not of all time, but just big failures. And it's number 2.
Number 2.
Oh, that's me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I want to talk about Biba. Biba was a fashion store in the 60s. They started off with mail order, actually, as a matter of fact. And then they started a little boutique off Kensington High Street in London. And they were just suddenly sort of chic. They were like, but as they grew, because they were very successful, they ended up launching Big Biba in, I think it was like 72, 73. A massive department store, like 6 stories with a fantastic rainbow room.
You went, didn't you? You've seen
yes.
it. Yeah.
Is this Beaver or Bieber?
Biba. B-I-B-A.
Oh, B-I-B-A. Okay.
I thought we were talking about Bieber too, and I was going to say that sounds like cruel. Anyway, yes. So you went to the store, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. But it was a monumental folly. I mean, you're talking about Britain in the early 70s, was sort of collapsing, industrial collapse, unrest, economic ruin. And then this massive emporium opens, and it was a complete Art Deco redo fantasy, peach tinted mirrors and roof gardens and feather boas and ostrich feathers. And they branded everything from baked beans to soap flakes, in addition to clothes. And it was a massive, spectacular failure. And the whole company went bankrupt within, I think, just over a year. The store was so dark, everybody was shoplifting everything. The fantastic, massive windows that were the storefront windows, they didn't put merchandise in them, they put couches. So you could sit in the window of the storefront.
That's probably where Fiorucci came up with the idea, don't you think?
Right? But it was prescient in a way that the audience is the entertainment and the sort of idea of an immersive environment. This was a complete immersive environment, almost at the same time as when Robert Redford, Mia Farrow came out in The Great Gatsby.
Well,
So
I was
everyone
going to
was,
say, wasn't the whole Biba aesthetic, wasn't it sort of a 30s,
yes, it
like
was.
the 30s prints and everything? And yeah.
It absolutely was a Deco Redux orgy.
Uh-huh.
And Great Gatsby came out with Redford and Mia Farrow, and what was the other? Oh, it's sort of in a way the way where Downton Abbey ends up is in the sort of peak deco thing. And it's just so interesting to me that it was a failure, and the brand lives on its own by some very boring House of Fraser.
I mean, didn't it become instantly collectible afterwards? And don't people fetishize the Biba look and everything still to this day, where it's a failure, but it sort of lives on in people's minds?
It lives on in people's minds, and I think had a huge influence on retail, because I think Ralph Lauren, who actually designed the costumes for The Great Gatsby, he then, I think, picked up the Biba mantle, not necessarily the 30s piece, but the idea of a whole environment, a whole world that you build. And, you know, the Rhinelander Mansion, his sort of signature anchor store in Manhattan. I mean, it is Biba, really, and it's hugely successful. I mean, you know, one of the greatest retailing empires of today.
But I have heard you fetishize Biba too, and you know, part of your childhood, and you know that first visit to the store. And I do think of like the Libertine prints and the all that stuff from that early 70s period British. It like I said, it still lives on in people's minds. It was very influential, not in just the branding of a brand.
Yes, it wasn't just the branding of it was a branding of a whole lifestyle, you know, and that you sort of enter into it. I think it was just sadly ahead of its time. So that was my number 2 failure. Let's take a break, and when we come back, the number 1 failure that makes us go, wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. We've been counting down the top 10 failures, and we've reached number 1. I mean, it's so hard to pick out number 1, right?
Number 1.
I would say for you, Fenton, personally, is BlackBerry, because I remember you lived and died by BlackBerry. You loved it so much, and you were heartbroken when it ended. Am I correct?
Crackberry, it was known as. And I still think they could have it today. I mean, they say that the BlackBerry's big failure was it failed to incorporate touchscreen, blah, 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 and apps. But actually just having this little thing that's like a pager, really, I guess, but this little tiny keyboard that you could do with your thumbs, I just thought it was amazing. I would still use it today if they brought it out again. Did you have a BlackBerry, Tom?
Oh, I did, and I loved it, and I was so sorry to see it go. But I, of course, have totally left it in the like my tail. I've left it behind me now. I've evolved.
Blake has graciously sent us a list of many other failures that we can just very quickly. I want to say that the Microsoft Zune was one of them. It was supposed to be Apple's
Microsoft's
version of the iPod, and it just did not take off. Movie Pass, which I think is still the idea lives on, right, Blake? Don't you have something akin to it?
Yeah, that you can buy an AMC membership or whatever, but there was a card called Movie Pass that started it all, where you could go to unlimited movies, and it kind of bankrupted the company.
No one asked me, but I'm going to throw up for a number 1 consideration. Trump Shuttle, Trump Steaks, Trump University, Trump Vodka, Trump the Game, Trump.
It's just such a shame. Those were all failure. That poor man, what he has been through.
The Plaza Hotel, the Hard Rock Casino in Atlantic City. Let's just hope that his latest venture ends up better than those.
Well, I have a feeling it's not going to.
I have a feeling this ballroom is going to live on forever and ever. And I want to say that Google Glass was something that was going to change the world, if you recall, and it did not.
Well,
Google
more
Glass.
recently, the big Cracker Barrel rebrand.
Right. Yes. Very true. Very true. Enron, Blockbuster, Kodak, which is having problems again.
Also, Fisker,
Fisker?
Fisker, the electrical cars. You can
God,
buy them.
I thought there was an app called Fister this whole time that I've been missing out on.
There is something called Fister. It's
Fisker is a car. It was an electric car. They even had like a pop-up in the Grove for this.
they did.
But now you can buy them for cheap because the company doesn't exist anymore.
That's not good for repairs.
Wow, that was an amazing
What was that?
episode. It was an amazing episode of abject failures that we have listed 1 through 10. Thank you very much for being here.
I have never changed so many times in one episode, by the way. I've never changed outfits so many times.
Until then, go out and do something that does not fail, but it makes the world go, wow. Thank you all.
Oh, James, that
Thank
is
you,
so,
James.
so good. This show was about to go down as a failure itself, but you snatched victory from the jaws of defeat.